Hello, my beautiful, beautiful bookish besties. You're all looking lovely today, as usual. Sorry this video is coming in a little late. I'm in finals right now and I couldn't get the time to sit down and film because I have so many essays to do. I have 5 essays due this week and I didn't start any of them yet. I'm going through it, but I'm gonna sit down, film this, and then I'll probably start working on those. So it's monthly wrap-up time. If you don't know what a wrap-up is, you've never seen one. This one I talk about all the books I read in the month of April and my spoiler-free thoughts on them. No spoilers. I just said that. I said spoiler-free and then I said no spoilers. That's the same thing, you silly goose. It's fine. Okay. So overall, last month was not my best reading month at all. I read a lot less than I usually do, which is weird because that was supposed to be my best reading month. That's what I thought it was going to be because my top 3 most anticipated releases of 2024 all came out in April, so I thought it'd be the best month for me because I could read them all and I'd be happy, but I was wrong, as usual. It was the worst reading month I've had so far this year. I didn't get to any of the 3 new releases that I wanted to. I wanted to get to The Familiar, Funny Story, and Powerful by Lauren Roberts, but they're all in such high demand at the library that I couldn't get a hold of them, which I guess is understandable. I probably should have expected that. It's fine. I'll get them to them next month, so maybe next month will be my best month. That's what I'm hoping. And then, yeah, I also just couldn't read as much as I normally do because I was really busy with school and other obligations, and also a lot of the books I read did not work for me. Lots of 2 stars, some 1s and 3s, no 6-star reads. I did have a few 5s and 4s though, which is good. So it was just not the best month for me overall. Let's start talking about the books though now. The first book I read in April was Meet Your Match by Nangsi Wen. I have never heard anyone talking about this book, but I decided to take a risk on it because it follows 2 people who meet on a reality TV dating show, and as you guys know, because I mention it in every single video, Kiss This Guy is my favorite book in the entire universe. I would die for that book and its characters, and Kiss This Guy follows that reality TV show premise, and I've been searching for another book to give me those same vibes, and nothing has quite hit as hard. I fear nothing ever will. I peaked with that book. But the reason I read this is because it follows the reality TV plot too, and I was hoping I would enjoy it as much as I did Kiss This Guy. Suffice to say, I did not. I gave this 2 stars. The characters were such bad communicators, it drove me up the wall. They would constantly make assumptions about the other person's thoughts and feelings, and their assumptions were almost always wrong. A character would say something, and the other character would completely misinterpret their meaning, and then there would be stupid, pointless drama over nothing. This happened so many times. For example, the characters both fell for each other instantly. I didn't like the instant love either, but we'll get to that in a bit. They fell for each other right away, but they took so unbelievably long to confess their feelings because they were assumed based off of misinterpreted lines or behaviors that the other person didn't reciprocate their feelings. It was so annoying. Jumping from perspective to perspective with both of them going, I really like them, but they don't like me. Why? Knowing that their feelings were reciprocated, just talk like we are all adults. Let's just talk. Oh, it was so annoying that I like them, but they don't feel the same. Storyline dragged on for so long. I was getting so fed up. And the other thing I want to talk about, the insta love, it is so rare that an insta love will be done right, and this was not one of those times. It didn't even make sense why they initially liked each other because their first interaction was a bad one. She was snappy at him and he fell in love with her for some reason. I don't even know. She thought he was a douchebag, but she couldn't get him off of her mind and kept seeking him out for why. I don't know. You had one interaction and it was a bad one, so it just didn't make any sense why they even liked each other. I don't know. Okay. Glad I got that off my chest. I didn't have anyone to talk to about this book because it's so unpopular. No one else has read it or heard about it. So I've been waiting for this wrap-up time to rant. I finished this on, I think, the 2nd day of April. So I've been waiting a long time. 28 days. Well, actually more than that because it's May 5th when I'm filming this. But anyway, one of the positive things I can say about this, though, is that the ending was really sweet, and not just because the book was over. That's not what I meant. The ending was really sweet. I also like the characters. Pippa took up some warming up too because she came off as initially very rude and snappy at first, but that aspect of her personality gets subdued as you go on and you actually grow to like her. August, on the other hand, is self-deprecating, awkward dork throughout the entire novel. He never changes, and I'm happy about it because I love awkward, dorky men. He was really cute. And that's about all I have to say about this, I think. Before we move on to the next book, I just want to make something clear, and this goes for any book I talk about. Just because I do not like a book does not mean you guys should not read it or that the book is bad. That's not what I'm saying. When I give a negative review, reading is subjective. Just because I dislike something doesn't mean you all will. If you guys don't mind miscommunication or insta love, you might like this, and you should give it a try. I never want to discourage anyone from reading something, especially when it's an underrated author like Ningxi Wen. I wish her and her books all the success in the world. I'm just letting you know why this didn't work for me personally. I'm going to share my opinions, but I don't want anyone to take my opinions like fact. That's what I'm trying to say. If this is on your TBR, don't take it off. Give it a try. You might like it, unless you also hate miscommunication and stuff, which this probably won't work for you, but some of you might like it. I'm just rambling. So let's move on to the next book. Then I read The Serpent and Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. This follows Oriya, who is a human in vampire society. She enters this competition to the death called the Kachari because whoever wins gets a wish granted to them from the goddess, and she wants that wish. Wouldn't we all? The romance is between her and Rain, who she reluctantly allies herself with in the competition. I love me reluctant allies to lovers trope. I ate this up. I gave 5 stars. There were some things about the plot that didn't make much sense. Like the fact that Rain joined a competition to the death with his best friend. Don't understand that at all. Because the competition is voluntary. They're all choosing to do this. And why would you do it with your best friend? It's not a bonding experience, guys. Like, when he was gonna die. That part made no sense to me, but everything else was so fun. I really liked the slow burn of the relationship and the banter. The friendships were all really cute. This also features a very complex father-daughter relationship, and I like storylines that deal with complex family dynamics, so I appreciated that. I thought it was very well done, interesting. There was a lot of action and violence to keep me engaged. And the plot twist at the end? What? It wasn't even the plot twist, really. It was more so the delivery. It was wild, and I can't wait to get my hands on the next book. It's gonna be a while, though, because there's so many holes on the library for this, but it's fine. I can be patient. Not really. I really want to read it very, very soon. Next up, The New Couple in 5B by Lisa Unger. This story is told in dual timelines. One of them follows Rosie, who has inherited apartment 5B, and the other timeline is in the past. It follows Willa, who had lived in the apartment years before Rosie moved in, their husband. One thing I did like about this was the setting. It's gothic with gargoyles and things, and it has this eerie history behind it, filled with suicides and murders. It added to the suspense. That's one of the only things I liked about this, though. Now onto the things I didn't like. It was very predictable. There was so much foreshadowing about the villains that it was so obvious who all the bad guys were because they're all the most suspicious people. And with a mystery thriller, I want to be shocked by who the bad guy actually is. I want a twist, you know? And I did not get that with this because everyone Rosie suspects of being bad does actually turn out to be bad. I also feel like this had so much filler. So much of what was included did not need to be included because it added absolutely nothing to the plot. Willa's point of view chapters especially could have been cut a hefty amount because her chapters, it was just the same thing happening over and over again on repeat with very little differentiation between them. Her chapters just ran in circles. It was very tedious and unnecessary in my opinion. So I didn't really like this. I gave it 3 stars. It was okay. I liked the setting. But everything else, not really. My sister loved this though. She gave it 5 stars. She's the reason I read it, so maybe it's just me. You try it and see for yourself if the plot interests you. Never take my opinion seriously. I don't know what I'm talking about most of the time. Like I said. I love you like a love song, baby. I love you like a love song, baby. I love you. Did you guys like my singing? Probably not. Okay, I'll stop. I read A Love Song by Ricky Wilde by Tia Williams. I don't know how to describe the plot of this because the first half is so drastically different from the second half. It feels like 2 completely different stories. The first half, we're following Ricky Wilde, who is the black sheep of her family, as she tries to run a successful flower shop. No one in her family believes in her ability to succeed with this business endeavor, and we're following along with that. And then the second half is filled with magical realism, and the flower shop is barely mentioned. We're focusing on completely on the romance now in the second half, and everything else is second stage, whereas in the first half, the characters' dreams and aspirations were the main plot, and the romance was the side plot. The good news is, I like both parts. Yay, cheer, applause, hooray, woohoo! I really liked Ricky and her characterization. She has generalized anxiety disorder and social anxiety, and as someone with social anxiety, I could relate, and I instantly felt connected to her because of that similarity between us. And the writing is beautiful. There are some really pretty quotes in here that I highlighted. I also loved the magical realism storyline. I thought that the whole concept was so cool. The only thing I didn't like was the insta-love. They become obsessed with each other after one conversation. Come on, drag it out a little bit to heighten the tension. Ezra did acknowledge how quickly they fell for each other at one point, and it said it shouldn't have been possible, how deeply they fell so fast, which I guess it makes it better when people acknowledge it, but still, I still just didn't like it. So 4 stars, that's what docked the rating. a little bit, but I still really liked it and I would recommend it. Then I kind of read A Tether Through the Rift by Lindsay Anna Roden. This was my first DNF of the year. I really tried to get to the end because a crazy part of me really thought I could go all year without a single DNF. I'm delusional. Who let me think I could actually do that? It's April, and I've already given up. Didn't even make it halfway through the year, and I quit. I had to DNF this. I'm sorry. This is a fantasy romance about a girl named Hazel who was attacked and has no recollection of her life prior to the attack. Authorities say it was an animal attack, but she knows in her bones that it was something more, and she starts searching for the answers with her boyfriend. I hated this. I'm sorry. I really didn't like it. This is part of the reason why I read so little this month in comparison to other months is because this book took me 12 days to read, and I didn't even finish it. I had like 100 pages left, and I was just like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I really did not like it. It is so slow. The author has so many good ideas, but the pacing ruins everything. Like, for example, the villain is really cool. That's one of the things I liked. But what I didn't like was how underutilized he was. He was barely there because the plot moved so slowly and we wouldn't get to conflicts. We would just talk about him. I just wanted to get to the point. They spent so much time talking about this guy and so little time fighting him and battling him, and I just wasn't a fan. All the characters did was sleep, talk, get dressed, and eat in their cozy little residence. And this book is supposed to be higher stakes. Where are the stakes? I could not feel the tension because the plot was so slow that it made everything feel mundane. More time was spent doing boring stuff like eating than on the battles and the attacks and the fun stuff that it makes me like the fantasy genre. This is also advertised as including the found family trope, but it did not give off those vibes, in my opinion, because Hazel hardly knows these people. They're spending time together, yes, but they're not all that close for the majority of the book, and it's not even just Hazel that isn't close to them. There's also this random guy who shows up named Lennox, and he starts helping Vander torture people, and he has a relationship with some of them, but he isn't super close with them. At least it didn't feel that way. It didn't feel like a family. And then there's a girl named Marin that shows up at one point, and she just sticks around for some reason. I feel like the author didn't know who the characters would be when she started this, and she was just adding them as she went along. That's what it felt like, because they would just randomly show up and be a part of this supposed found family that wasn't really a family. The connection isn't there. You know what I mean? Like the found family in Six of Crows, like I could feel the connection and the friendships, like I could feel it, or the Addicted series, like it just didn't feel like that. So I feel like I was kind of expecting something that wasn't there. It was kind of falsely advertised. I mean, maybe it will feel more like a found family in the other books. This is just the first one, so I mean, I guess it makes sense that they're not all super duper close, but I just wish it wasn't advertised to me that way because I love found family and I was really excited for that element, and I didn't really get those vibes. I don't know if I explained this well, but my point is that the found family didn't feel like a family at all because most of the characters weren't that close. They didn't give off those vibes. Another thing that annoyed me was that everyone around Hazel knew information about her past and was keeping it from her, and therefore me, to protect her, even though it wasn't even... It was just annoying. It was annoying that her past got dragged on for so long when everyone in her so-called found family knows what's up and is just keeping it from her for no real reason. Just tell us. That was so annoying to me, the way it got dragged on for so long for absolutely no reason. It just didn't make sense. Hazel also kind of irritated me because she was crying in literally every chapter. And at first I was like, okay, fine. Girlie's going through it. She's allowed to cry. We all cry, It's fine. But it started to get really old around chapter 15. I do not judge people in real life for crying at all. I cry about everything and anything. That's fine. I don't care if people cry. But reading about a character who's constantly crying is so annoying. It feels so repetitive. It's not fun. I love her comfort scene, but when it happens every 10 pages, it loses its impact. It's no longer cute. It's repetitive and unnecessary. Sorry, I really went to town on this book. I didn't like it at all, but it's not all bad. I can definitely see how someone would like it. The rating is really high. It was at a 4.56 when I read it. Everyone's enjoying this except me, apparently, so take my opinion with a grain of salt. The plot twists were really great. Like I said, the author had good ideas. It's just the execution and the pacing that ruined everything for me, so 2 stars. Then I read In Love with Louis Prescott by Sarah Smith. This was also 2 stars. This is about a celebrity who has a little controversy and he needs to hide out for a few months, and he bumps into this non-celebrity, I don't know what to call her. What do you call it? A normal citizen? And then he moves in with her. Yeah, just like that. Doesn't know her or anything. Totally safe and normal behavior. Just moving in was strangers, especially a celebrity, that's really normal and plausible. And that one of the reasons why I was put off from this book right off the bat was because it is so unrealistic. Imagine if you just bumped into like Shawn Mendes on the street and he just moved in with you. He doesn't question your motives or anything, immediately trusts that you'll keep this on the down low, won't sell him out to paparazzi for thousands of dollars. He just trusts you. It just wasn't believable. It's also insta love, and their relationship was more physical attraction and lust than genuine love and emotional connection, in my opinion. This is more of a me issue than a book issue, because I know some people like that, and that's fine for me personally, though. I am more interested in the emotional aspects of a relationship than the smut and his washboard abs or the dimples in her back. I should have counted the amount of times he talked about the dimples in her back, because double digits for sure. Buddy had a fetish. Anyway, I just couldn't get invested in the couple because it was so physical and so little emotional. It was also just kind of boring. Their conversations did nothing for me. Neither did the smut, neither did the plot. So essentially almost nothing worked for me. I did like the FMC support system. That's why I'm giving this a 2-star and not a 1. Her support system was really sweet and supportive, and there was positive therapy representation. So not all bad. Then I picked up Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I knew this book would be good as soon as I saw this gorgeous cover, and it did not disappoint. I loved it so much, 5 stars. Unlike in Love with Louis Prescott, the romance is more emotionally charged than physically charged. If you don't like spice but you like romance, highly recommend this one. It's a closed door romance, and the emotional connection between the two characters is so good. I will admit, it did take me a hot second to get into because they were in the getting to know each other stage, and the questions they were asking each other put me to sleep. They were asking each other very basic questions, basically how anyone in real life would talk to a new person, but this isn't real life, it's fiction, and fiction is supposed to be fun and entertaining. So at the beginning bored me a little bit just because it seemed so normal and lame. Some people might like it though because it is so realistic, but again, it's fiction. I don't need it to be that realistic. You know, I could have done without the getting to know you questions. Once everyone knew each other though, I was in, and it was so good. I love Emma. First of all, I was so invested in her character growth. She is the most empathetic, forgiving, kind girly pop ever. I adore her, and I want to be her mother. Her mother does not deserve her. I do. Moving on to Justin. He's great. He was a little boring at first, but by the end, I really appreciated how dependable and thoughtful he was. He's a sweetheart. Also, the plot is fun. Well, I should say it started out as fun. Then it got really heavy and sad, but it was so fun in the beginning. It's about these two characters, Emma and Justin, who are supposedly cursed. Everyone they date ends up finding their soulmate shortly after being with them. And to cancel out their curses, they go on dates with each other with the hope that when they stop dating, they will go on to find their own soulmate. I don't know if that makes sense, but I hope you processed what I just said. If you're confused, just read the blurb on Goodreads or something. I love this. There's very raw and realistic depictions of mental health. There's positive therapy representation. There's strong girl friendships. There was so much to love and appreciate about this book. The average Goodreads rating is high for a reason. This was great. Then I continued on with the Crescent City series. I read the second book, which is House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. Or is it Maas? I always forget. I think it's Maas. Yeah, I think it is, because I remember telling myself it's not how it looks. It's not an elongated A. It's Maas. Okay. I think it's Maas. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Moving on. Let's talk about the book. I am continually... What's the word? No. Yeah, continually. That's right. I'm a mess. I'm continually... I don't know why that doesn't sound right. I'm trying to spell it in my head right now. Continually. Yeah. I am continually in awe of how SJM keeps all of the information in this world organized, because there's so much to it. It's so impressive that she thought this all up and can keep it all organized. Speaking of, I need to rant a little bit about this book and all of SJM's other books, because I have been seeing a lot of comments and videos and posts labeling her books as just porn. First of all, there's nothing wrong with reading erotica. I hate that people get shamed for that. Reading is supposed to be fun, and if that's what's fun for you, go nuts, babe. You'll only get support from me. I don't get how some people can be so bothered by what other people read. It's ridiculous. If you don't want to read it, don't. But if you don't need to mock and ridicule people who do. That's stupid. Second of all, I'm getting notifications. Let me just check my phone. Sorry. Okay. What was I going to say? I was making the argument, okay, about the erotica, right? Second of all, her books are not erotica. They're not even erotica, or just quote unquote just porn. Does she write smut? Yes, but there is so much more to the plot than just romance and sex. This book especially had so many storylines that had nothing to do with romance. I'm so sick of people trying to diminish these books' value because they have some sex in them. I saw on Instagram a comment recording this, and it said, do we judge movies and TV shows as simply erotic films because they have one sex scene in them? And the answer is no, never. So why are we judging books in the same way? And I thought that was a really good comparison, and I've been using it. So now that I got that off my chest, let's discuss the book. I gave this 4 stars. I didn't like it as much as the first one. It felt dragged on at parts, and there was some filler that didn't need to be there. I also didn't like the way the mystery concluded. This book does involve an investigation, and the big reveal seemed so anticlimactic and pointless. I don't understand why we went on this wild goose chase if that was the answer the whole time. It seemed like a huge waste of time, and the storyline led to absolutely nothing. So not impressed with that. That was probably my biggest annoyance, was that unnecessary storyline that took up so much time and led to nothing. Had way more time than it deserved. My favorite thing, we'll do the opposite now. My favorite thing was probably the ending, the twist. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to read the third book now to see how it all ends up and to see where she goes with this. I like the characters. I like Bryce. She's so self-assured, outspoken. She's a queen. And I also like the side characters, especially Rune. I have a little bit of a crush on him. Speaking of Rune, I'm obsessed with his romance, the reluctant allies lovers trope. As I said, I just eat it up every time, and it was done so well in this. His love interest was initially very closed off, and they slowly started to trust and care for each other, and it was just so cute. And I also love the family theme. High key scared to share my thoughts on this one because most people I speak to are utterly and unequivocally obsessed with it and the characters, but not me. I read If You Had Been With Me by Laura Nolan. I'm scared to speak, but I must. Please don't be angry at me. But I hate this book. Hate is a strong word, but I truly hated this. There's no way around it. I was fuming from start to finish. This book made me so angry. There is so much emotional cheating. That's the main thing that pissed me off. Because don't be in a relationship with someone. If you're in love with someone else, it's not rocket science, babe. And the fact that Autumn never recognizes that what she's doing is wrong or owns up to it in any way just pissed me off even more. She led Jamie on for years. And I've seen people making the excuse that she's just a kid, kids make mistakes. And I'm sorry, but no, at her big age, she knows better than to lead people on for years. This is basic common sense. Kids in elementary school know this. Teenagers in high school most definitely know this. She never acknowledges that what she put Jamie through was unfair, even after her character development in the second book, which I'll talk about that one after this one. And other things bothered me too, like the fact that this has absolutely no plot. Nothing interesting happens until the very end, and the ending is rushed. So we go through all that boring stuff to get to the only interesting part, and it's just kind of glossed over. I feel like not enough time was spent on that. It's just so repetitive. It's a constant stream of thinking about Finney, having doubts about Jamie, and thinking about sex. That is all that happens for 300 pages. And I've read books without much of a plot before and enjoyed them because the characters make up for it. These characters did not. I couldn't stand the main characters, couldn't root for them because of they have terrible morals. And Autumn and Finney are just so self-absorbed and they have no personality. What is there to like? They don't have any depth. All Autumn thinks about is sex and boys. Occasionally she would write a poem, and teenage girls have more depth than this. Be so for real. It's so cookie cutter. And Finney is this supposed nice guy who isn't really a nice guy. His morals are all sorts of skewed. Autumn is full of herself. She thinks she's better than everyone else. She thinks her poems are the only good ones and that everyone else's are cliche. Her words, not mine. She also thinks cheerleading and cheerleaders are cliche and that they aren't doing anything meaningful like she is doing. Okay, babe. She's just so judgmental and full of herself. Oh my goodness, I could not stand her. And she also wears a tiara on her head as if she's the queen of the student body or something. The tiaras are supposed to be symbolic, but it just seemed kind of silly. And she also refers to mascara as beautiful at one point. I don't even want to touch on that. There is so much to say there. Ooh, boy. The mental health representation wasn't well done. Autumn's depression is magically cured when she starts hanging out with Finney. And I just hate that. Let's stop the narrative that boyfriends can cure depression. Let's stop that. And also the lack of communication was also so stupid and annoying. And to top it all off, it was open-ended. There were so many unanswered questions at the end. I suffered through all of that to not even get a definitive conclusion to anything. I was so mad. I am not someone who can deal with open endings. They drive me nuts. I need to know what happened. So even though this book ended up being my least favorite book of the year, one of my least favorite books ever, I decided to read the second book for closure. And what do you know? I disliked it just as much as I did the first one, maybe even a little more. The first third of If Only I Had Told Her is just the first book, but in Finney's perspective, that was definitely my least favorite part, because everything I disliked about the first one was happening all over again. The cheating, the leading people on, I really could have done without Finney's perspective. I thought we'd get some new insight through his point of view, but most of what he had to say is stuff we already knew from the first book, so it just seemed pointless. I still don't think he has any depth. I was having the same issue in Autumn's point of view. Like I said, all they think about is their crush. They have no other values or motivations or desires. There's nothing else to them but each other. It doesn't matter how in love you are with someone. They're never going to be your every waking thought like this. That's not realistic. It's not how people are. I did really like Finney's girlfriend Sylvie though. She's great. Was she enough to save this book for me? Unfortunately not. I'm still giving this 1 star like I did the first one. Then I had the honor of reading It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. This was my favorite book of the month. It's nothing super deep. It's just really fun. It's a good time. I love the characters. I love the summary setting, the banter. Everything is just so fun. This follows Brendan and Piper. Piper gets into some legal trouble and her stepfather sends her to this small town as a punishment. He's not going to continue spoiling her and overlooking her partying. So she goes to this small town and she meets a grumpy fisherman named Brendan. It is Grumpy Sunshine. Love it. He initially dislikes her because he thinks she's looking down on his town and he thinks she's a spoiled rich girl, but the more time they spend together, the more they see that there's more to each other than meets the eye, the more they like each other, and it is just so good. If you want a cutesy light read, I cannot recommend this enough. Brendan is the best kind of grumpy, the kind of grumpy that is super soft and squishy on the inside. That's Brendan. He is so adorable, and he is not a man that plays games. Either he's very straightforward about what he wants and feels, and coming off of If He Had Been With Me, this was so nice. Piper is lovely. She's so charming and fun, a total sweetheart. I adore her. This was genuinely laugh out loud funny. I loved it so much. 5 stars. And then I just wanted to take a second to show off my bookmark because it matched the book so perfectly. Look, when I close the book, at the top all you see is the red, white, and blue letters, which is the color scheme of the cover. So it's so perfect. And then there's also a lighthouse on the bookmark like there is on the cover. Isn't that so cool? It always makes me so giddy when I have a bookmark that matches the cover like this. I thought it was so perfect. And it made the reading experience better. And then the next book I read was Bumps in the Road by Kat Page. This is a best friend's brother romance that takes place in Scotland. This was fine. I thought it was all right. There were some really cute scenes, and I liked how down bad the hero was for the heroine, but there was also a bunch of stupid miscommunications that lowered my rating from a 4 or 5 to a 3. I really like the hero. He's a caring little cinnamon roll, and also the smut is really good. That's always nice, but the miscommunication, I couldn't deal with it. But overall, though, I did actually like this. It was a good time, and it was really cute, and I want to read her other books because it was really cutesy. If there's no miscommunication in her next book, it could be 5, potentially. And then I read Barriers and Belonging, Personal Narratives of Disability. This is an anthology. It's nonfiction. Can't believe I read nonfiction. I was forced for school, but I did actually enjoy this. Most of the chapters are people with disabilities talking about their experiences, and there was one that was from a mother whose child had a disability. Also, I really like this. It's very eye-opening and helps eliminate stigma and preconceived notions people might have about people with disabilities. I'm not going to rate it because it is nonfiction. I just don't know how I would go about rating this, so I'm not going to give it a rating. I'm not going to be rating other people's personal experiences with their disability. That's not my place. That's no one's place, really, so we're just going to move on. I just really like this, so, and if you are interested in learning more about disabilities from people who have them, check this out. Then I read Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor, which I am so disappointed by. If you guys saw my TBR video, you would know that I was really excited to start this. The blurb sounded so interesting and unique, but this book just didn't land. This is a YA urban fantasy romance. I'm trying to figure out a cohesive way to describe the plot that makes sense, but there's so much going on in this book that I feel like my summary is going to be really messy and confusing, but I'm going to try my best. So this follows a teenager named Karu who is living in the normal world, like our world, but she knows there's magic in it because her adoptive father, Brimstone, has her going through portals to other countries to collect teeth for him, and these teeth are then exchanged for wishes. The power of the wish is determined by the value of the tooth. There's also angels and chimera in this world, and those two species are enemies. They've been feuding for thousands of years. That's a big part of the plot. I'm trying to think of what else. Oh, Karu has eyes on her hand. That also ends up being a very important part of the plot, but you don't realize what the eyes are or what their power is or anything until later on. Yeah, I don't know how to describe this any better. If that sounds appealing to you, maybe give it a try. That was not cohesive. I feel like that was so random, me just saying random things. But yeah, that's kind of what this book felt like at first. But then you realize how it all connects. For me, this book started off so strong. I loved the plot and the world. It's very unique and interesting, like I said, but everything else was a mess. The romance starts off so weird. He tries to kill her, and she proceeds to think about how hot he is for months. Girl, what? He tried to kill you. His hotness is not the most pressing matter right now. What is wrong with you? And the characters make no sense. Their thoughts and actions never seem to fit the situation. Like in the example I just used, if someone tries to kill you, you wouldn't be admiring the color of their eyes and their bone structure. Also, her best friend's reaction to that whole thing was equally as weird. The first time she meets him, she says, "Must mate immediately." Word for word. Excuse me? Girl? That is not how you react in this situation. These characters are so stupidly horny. I don't care how high your sex drive is or how attractive the guy is. If someone tries to kill you or your best friend, you are not thinking about their sex appeal. That is just wild. It's very insta-lovey. The relationship was not developed well at all. When they said their I love yous, I was just confused because we never saw their relationship work up to that stage. It wasn't believable to me. It seemed a lot more like lust than genuine connection. And there's quite a bit of filler as well, pointless conversations and scenes that added nothing to the plot. I'm also not a huge fan of the writing style. I'm not trying to bash her writing. It's not bad. It's just not for me. It's very flowery, and that works for a lot of people. I know a lot of people really like that. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of the flowery writing, though, because it takes so long to say something very simple. It was especially annoying in the conversations because one character would say something, and then we'd get 3 paragraphs of flowery descriptions, and by the time the other person responded, I'd forget what the first person said. And then we'd have to go back and reread. And the way some things were described was really confusing to me. I read a lot of fantasy, and I usually understand what I'm reading, but some of the big reveals in this, I could not understand what the twist was. I had to go to the wiki page to fully understand what I was reading because the writing was so hard for my brain to take in sometimes, and I needed things to be described to me in a different way. I'm giving this 2 stars. I liked the basic idea behind it, but the romance was awful, and the writing was not my favorite. Last but not least, Wild Love by Elsie Silver. This book gets the award for best cover of the month. This is a small town frenemies lovers billionaire romance. Billionaire with a B, by the way. B as in baloney. Dude is loaded. Anyway, Rosie goes back to her hometown after an incident at her workplace forced her to leave, and Ford, who is her brother's best friend, hires her. I really liked this, but I wasn't utterly and completely obsessed, so only 4 stars. It was the little things in this that made it for me, like him picking her up from a party and finding her diary for her and walking her home. Just little things like that he did to show her he cared. It was so nice, and I loved it. I loved how down bad he was for her, and oh, this is also unrequited love. I forgot that trope. This is so... Now that I'm describing it, I feel like there was a lot of tropes, and I didn't... As you're reading, it doesn't feel as tropey as it sounds right now, I promise. I'm only just now realizing how many tropes it hit. It's also, oh my gosh, it's also single dad. How did I forget that one? That's one of the biggest plot points. He has a kid he never knew about, and she just shows up on his doorstep. I can't believe I just forgot that until just now. That's wild, because that was like the main thing. I really liked watching him develop a relationship with his daughter, and I also liked Rosie's relationship with her as well. The smut was positively delicious. I like these side characters. Can't wait to get Bash and Wes's books. I like the witty back and forth emails they would send each other. I like the... What else did I like? I liked a lot of things about this. I don't know why I wasn't 5 stars. It just didn't give me that feeling. I wasn't utterly obsessed. Oh, I also liked that there was so much history between them and us slowly uncovering that. That was really fun. Also, I'm obsessed with this cover. It is so gorgeous. One of my favorites ever. So pretty. Pretty in pink. This was a great way to end the month and a great way to end this video. Bye, besties.